Hi everyone, this is Niki Rowland for GoGo Getaway. Welcome to the June 2020 Cyber Retreat. Unfortunately, we cannot be together, but I'm hoping that we will enjoy the weekend anyway. This class will be available to everybody actually. We're going to open this one up to anyone who would like to take part in this class. So you'll get the instructions and obviously this video, and there'll be a flip through video too. What I'm doing right now for this mini book is I have cut a piece of cardstock to the size of the template, so I think it's 4 inches by 8 inches, and I've added some score lines in the middle. I've left 2 wide pieces at each edge. I've also taken a piece of acetate that is 1 inch wide, and I've added the same score lines but not the lots of little ones in between. So once you see the template, that will make a lot more sense. You can see I've concertinaed the middle section of the acetate, of the cardstock, and then I have put this piece of acetate around the middle. So I've actually stitched it, but you could stick. I've stitched it to the front and the back pieces or pages of that inner piece. What it does is it kind of holds the concertina together, so it doesn't spring open hugely, but it also kind of keeps it together, but it also keeps it quite loose. I want lots of bulky things to go in this mini album, so therefore that is how this works. The concertinas need to be quite loose, but I did want it to be bound in some way, so that's what this will do. That piece of acetate will be covered by a big piece of ribbon. Okay, so now I'm putting on the front and back covers or pages. So I've taken the first piece, that is the yellow, and I've taken a longish piece and then folded it in half. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sandwich it round that front piece. Now, to get your glue on both sides of that piece of paper, don't do what I did. Stick one side down and then turn over and put more glue on the other bit and then sandwich it closed, because somehow I just did that a bit wrong. I must have been doing it late at night. That is the how I did the front cover, and then the back cover is exactly the same but bigger. All the measurements are in the instructions, so I won't start calling out measurements here on this video because you won't be able to keep up, and it's all written down anyway. So these pieces for the pages are long, and then they are folded in half, and then these front cover and the back cover sandwich those front and back pages of the concertina spine in between. So that is how the front and the back cover are made. Potentially you could stitch them on the sewing machine. I have just glued. I have stitched other things, but for this part in particular, I only used my tape gum. Okay, so that for me is the front and the back cover made. The acetate piece is hidden inside those covers, so you can't even see it. The only place you can see it is on the spine, and that is going to be covered by a piece of ribbon. Okay, so I'm just going through my pattern papers, and I'm moving on now to creating the other pages inside the book. So you should end up with 5 points on the outside of your book, and then 4 concertinas on the inside of your book. So 1, 2, 3, I think that's right. 4, 1, 2, 3. Oh no, 3. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. Well, anyway, I think it's 3 on the inside. So you should have 3 mountains inside your book left. Or maybe it's 4. I don't know. I can't see it close enough. But if you followed the template when you did the folding, it should work. Okay, so I am cutting out my pages. So I'm making these in the same vein as I made the front and the back cover, but instead of sandwiching them around the concertinas, I'm not doing that. I am sticking them to the back of them. So the reason for that is so that gives me extra space to put more pages in, and it means that the concertinas are then not squashed together. So if I was to sandwich those pages around the mountain fold inside, then when it actually came to be stuck, they would have to kind of be stuck together, and it would allow for less bulk inside the pages. So that's why I've done it in this way. So I cut a number of different pages. So the main pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there must be 4 mountains inside your mini book, not 3. So I've cut my pages, made them double size, folded them over so I have like a sandwich, and then I have glued them all together, but only on 3 sides. Now this is the part where I wish I had machine stitched to make my pockets. So basically these are going, all of these pages are going to be little pockets, and I should have machine stitched them together, but I didn't. I only used tape, and now it's too late for me to go back and add my stitching. So if you have a sewing machine and you can add machine stitching here, then I would recommend that you do so. But only on 3 sides. So the top edge is a pocket, and then now that all of my pages are made, I'm then going to stick them onto the back of each concertina. So I hope that you can just about see on the video what it is that I mean by that. So where every little mountain inside the mini book is, I'm just sticking a page to the back of each one. Now again, if you can sew these at this point, that would be good, but I wasn't able to get to my sewing machine, or get it through my sewing machine at this point, so I wasn't able to stitch them in place. I really wish that I had been able to do that. I think maybe that's something I should have done prior to doing any of the binding at all, but you know, we learn these things as we go along. I'm no mini book expert by any means, so I'm kind of learning as I go, and next time maybe I won't make so many mistakes. But I really loved making it, and it turned out super well. Right, so now all of my main pages are in, I'm now going to put in my additional pages. So like I said earlier, on the front of all of my concertinas gives me a space to add another page. So I'm taking small pieces of card or paper, and I'm scoring at a 1/2 inch, and then I'm adding those bits to the front of my concertinas. And this is the bit where I get kind of creative with fold outs, and that first one I just put in there therefore is quite long and folds out, and then I'm using a couple of these Polaroid cards from the Maggie Holmes Sweet Story collection. It's like a cut apart sheet, but they're a funny size. They're not a normal cut apart sheet size. So I've got some different sizes in here. But anyway, I scored them 1/2 an inch in from the edge, and that's the piece. That 1/2 inch strip is the bit that I've stuck onto the binding, the concertina. Okay, so right now I've taken a strip of 4 journaling cards that were on a cut apart sheet, and I'm scoring along all of them, and I'm concertina folding again here. And my plan was to have them so that they folded out as one piece that is in 4, like you can see that I'm doing there. However, things went a little bit wrong, and I ended up doing it slightly differently and cutting that piece in half, so I had a set of 2 and 2. And part of the reason for that is because I got a bit pressure happy on my scoring board, and when I scored through my paper, I actually scored a bit too hard, and basically tore the paper. So I had quite a few of the folds that were really very weak, so I decided the best thing to do there would be to cut them and use them as 2 separate pieces instead of 1 long piece. So that's what happened there, and that's slightly different. That's not explained in the instructions, so I'm only explaining that because you can see it here in the video, but that does not appear in my instructions at all. Okay, so that's the main mini book made, to be honest. That is the basis of the mini book, and we now just have to decorate. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the middle concertina fold, using my crocodile, and shoving it in, cutting a hole and setting an eyelet there in the top. So I now have a nice place to tie a tassel through. I had pre-made tassels there from the Paige Evans Bloom Street collection, I believe. So I had a pack of those, so I thought, why not? That's perfect. I could have got creative and made my own, and if you don't have any pre-made tassels, have a go at that. It would be fun. I like making tassels from rolled strips of paper that I fringed, and that's exactly what I would have done had I not have had these pre-made tassels just sitting around waiting to be used. So that's that, and you can see that I've also added the ribbon, and I've literally just added that with some tape, but then I do sew that on my sewing machine because I'm just worried. I don't have any red tape. I'm not a big fan of any tape on a roll except my ATG refills. So that is the only tape that I own. So if you have red tape, I'm sure that will do the job perfectly well, but I don't have that, so I tend to sew when I don't have when my ATG isn't really strong enough or up to the job. So that's why I have sewn my ribbon to my front and back cover. I did stick it first, but then I added some stitching through it too, just to really hold it in place. All the stitching is basically covered up, although you can see a little bit on the back. Mind you, it's in white and it's so subtle you can't really see it anyway, and machine stitching is pretty anyway, so I wasn't worried about it being seen, but it does mostly get covered. Okay, so now I'm moving on to embellishing the mini book, and I'm just starting off with the front cover. I've taken a journaling card and a tag, a pink tag. I'm going to put the pink tag horizontally, therefore it was too long, so I had to trim it down. I think it's a piece of ephemera, but any tag would do. And I've taken a journaling card as well, stuck those on top of each other onto the front of the book, and then I'm adding my title, which is Lockdown. I've used 2 different fonts of thickers, and that's just going onto the front of my mini book like that. I'm also going to add some stickers and some gold thread to the front of this mini book as well. So just got some puffy stickers. I think it's the Cartabella Summer Market, I think. Not Flower Market, that was last year. Summer Market, I think. That's the puffy stickers at the bottom there, and then I'm fiddling around trying to work out what I can put at the top. So I've got that big chipboard bow at the moment, but that's coming straight back off again, didn't like that. Am I going to use that somewhere else? I end up with a small little yellow banner in the corner, top left corner, with some strawberries and some flowers and things like that. So I needed to have something small. This front cover is, well, the journaling card itself is like 3x4, so it's really quite small. So and that with that giant title on there, which is really not giant, it just looks giant on the small page. The embellishment on the front cover needed to be small. So look for all the small things that you've got in your stash. So a big sticker sheet like I've got there, that Cartabella one, is ideal because they tend to have lots of small elements on them, and that they have worked super well here on the top left corner. You will be able to see close-up pictures of all of the pages. There's a separate PDF document which contains the additional images of every single page and every journaling card and every pocket. So yeah, that is my front cover pretty much complete. And then I'm going to move on. I'm still fiddling around with my front cover, sorry guys. This is a long video, by the way. I am going to be I'll probably stop talking at various points, because there's no point me explaining every single thing that I'm doing when you have got written instructions to have a look at as well. So rather than try and give measurements and things and step-by-step instructions on here, I will probably stop talking in a moment and put some music on and let you watch me carry on the rest of the process, and I'll only start talking again when there's something that I need to point out. So at the moment, while I'm just adding some decoration, there's probably not a huge amount of point in me talking you through it. Do remember that the order in which I do things on this video is definitely not the same order as my written instructions. And that's because when you're creating something from scratch, it doesn't tend to work to do things in the order that you would have done them if you knew what you were doing. Does that make sense? So if I was following instructions, it's all about trial and error. I just tried to add that tag there, that didn't work, so that does go in but somewhere else. I have a fiddle around with this chipboard piece that I've got in the inside front cover there, adding the words "my story." So I was like, well, now that I've got that chipboard piece there, I can't fit anything else there. So what do I do about that? Do I leave it just as an embellishment, or do I add a photo somehow? Do I try and squeeze the photo in somehow onto that page, which has got really no room for anything else? So like I said, it's all trial and error, and eventually I come up with a sensible way of embellishing my book. And it all looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how it looks. But as with scrapbooking generally, the process isn't straightforward, and I end up doing a bit, then coming back and reworking on that section and tucking bits in and lifting bits up again and adding extra bits and pieces. So I've done exactly the same in this mini book too. So the instructions are far more easy to follow than this video. But if you want to see some of it, of course, carry on watching. So what I've just done there is, this is on main page, let me see, 1, 2, I think it's main page 2, so all the pages are labelled. And I've just added a journaling card to the top, which then becomes a flip up. So that was that one. I'm now having a look at this kind of concertina section, and trying to work out if I can leave it as a 4 or if I need to change it into a 2, which is what I do in the end. I'm just fussy cutting out a few florals. They're going to go under the corner of that section there. So I have this whole beautiful sheet of Cartabella flowers floral paper. So I cut a few of those out, one big spray, and then I have a chipboard flower as well from the Maggie Holmes Sweet Story collection too, so that ends up in this little corner as well. Like I said, I'm still like trial and error all the time here, so I've just put that chipboard frame on that little yellow page there, but I then wanted to come in with that kind of lemonade stand or whatever that is, but that didn't work. So I'm coming back now with this megaphone, and adding that in, and then so this is where I'm looking at the concertina section and not really liking it that much. So it's clearly bothering me at this point, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. So I'm having to stick the back of the concertina piece to the front of that black and white print there. That's the next page along, because it wasn't sturdy enough to support itself as a page. So where I'd gone through the paper, when I scored it at 1/2 inch in, I really ripped it, and if you look closely at my mini book photos, you can probably see where it is torn a bit. So therefore that's why I had to stick that page down. You guys don't have to do that. You could leave that as a separate page if you're not so pressure happy with your scoring tool as I was. Okay, so I've jumped to the back page, inside of the back cover there. I've added that lovely gingham yellow piece of paper there, which is so, like, it's one of my favourite prints. I think I had a page of something similar a couple of months ago, and then I got almost exactly the same paper again really recently, so I was delighted because it's one of my favourite prints, yellow gingham, lovely. So I've just added that to the inside back cover. I'm now going through and working out what I can put in my little pockets. So every main page is a pocket page, and I'm planning to put journaling cards and photos and all sorts of things inside those pockets. But like I said, it's a major work in progress, so I'm just flipping backwards and forwards erratically all over the book. No rhyme or reason, just kind of as I find things and where they can go. So that swan there is another one of those kind of Polaroid journaling card things that was part of a cut apart sheet. I've scored it 1/2 inch up from the bottom, and I'm going to create a little flap with that, so that will fold forwards, and behind it will sit something. At this point I'm not sure what, but I end up putting a journaling card there which I attach with a paper clip. Okay, so still like working around the pages, and kind of making decisions and sticking bits in. I don't want to embellish too much because obviously I want to add my photos. I need to have room left to put my photos in. So I can't completely cover it in embellishments. I definitely need some space for photos and also space for journaling too. At some point I just have to get as far as I can and stop, because then I need to print my photos and add them, and then I can carry on adding some embellishments thereafter, but if I carry on at the moment, then I'm going to get carried away with my embellishments because I love embellishments so much. And I won't have any room left. You just saw me add a piece of it was a journaling card actually. You can see it there just on the left page. That's because my page that I added, that was an additional page, which was one of the Polaroids from the cut apart sheet. I didn't like the other side, so I've just covered that over with a different print. So don't forget that if you don't like any of the backs of the things that you've used, then you can always cover them up and put something lighter there, for example. Okay, so I'm done with my main mini book now, and I'm about to move on to adding my photos. And I say at this point I'm going to stop talking and let you just watch how it is that I do that. Having said that, I'm now going to immediately start talking again because I forgot that at this point I make a confetti pocket, so I wanted to talk you through that. So I took a piece of pattern paper that was the same pattern as one of my pages, that's main page 3, and I cut it ever so slightly smaller than the size of the page, and I cut a piece of acetate the same size, and then I have stitched the two together, and this time I did do it on my sewing machine. I've stitched 3 edges and left the top edge open, and I'm going to put in a ton of sequins, pretty sequins, so I have one big giant, it's not really giant, but one large shaker pocket within my mini book. Now, had I forward thought about this, which I didn't, then I would have done the shaker pocket and done it directly onto the page before I sewed it or stitched it. No, I didn't even stitch it before I stuck it together as a main page. But say because this is part of the embellishment, it got added later. It wasn't part of the design at the beginning, it was something I decided to add later on, so therefore I just had to make the best of what I could do. So I chose the same print, and looking at this mini book right in front of me at the moment, there was no way you would really ever notice that that wasn't on the main page. You can see a line if you were to examine it really closely, but it doesn't look odd or anything like that. It looks really great actually. So I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. So now I have a whole load of sequins on that page behind my photo. So there's my shaker pocket there. I've finished stitching up the top, so once I'd added all the sequins I had to then stitch across the top as well, pull my threads through, secure them on the back, and now I can just stick that page directly onto the page that is already there. So it does add an extra layer of bulk, but this book has plenty of scope for bulk. You can get as bulky as you like. So now I am adding a pocket to the back of main page 4, and I've just taken a journaling card, cut it down to the size that I want. It's like a 2-inch strip I think, or slightly smaller, and I've just cut it to the width of my page, and I've stuck it down on 3 sides, and that has given me a little pocket to put some things in. It just gives an extra little different interactive way of type of page basically. So this is the point that I cut my journaling piece, my journaling cards into 2 pieces of 2 instead of a concertina of 4. So I literally cut it in half, and I've lapped one over the page with the ice cream and the flip up journaling card, and I've tucked it round so that the page opens on the other side of the page. Does that make sense? When I do the flip through, that will make a bit more sense. So have a look at that if that's confusing. So that is how I dealt with that. Okay, now I'm going to add my photos and stop talking. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this has been helpful. I say the instructions will be more helpful than this video, but hopefully read in conjunction together, they should make things fairly clear. Any questions you can just ask me. Alright, thanks so much.